This was the frontier once, rugged, remote, violent, the Wild West. That is our history, part of our makeup, with outlaws and bad men who created murder and mayhem. Our heroes have been fighters mostly, Jackson, Sevier, Davy Crockett. They fought for community, country, and order. But there are those who stood outside the law or chose to fight against it. I'm Bill Landry, and this is their story on Heartland Tonight. Violence was part of life on the frontier. But given our tumultuous history, what of the deviant and the violent group, the outlaw and bad man who blew in here? On Heartland Tonight, we'll explore the dark side of the frontier, from the Spanish conquest to the blood feud. From the day Kid Curry blew into town to the enemy camp in Crossville during World War II. It's the dark side of life on the frontier on Heartland Tonight. This land was torn from the Native Americans, fought over by British and French, ours only by a revolution. But it began with the Spanish. Long before British and French explorers set foot in East Tennessee, other Europeans had come and gone. They came armed with sword and crossbow on a mission of conquest. Their brief involvement here would destroy one ancient culture and give rise to another. They were the Spanish, and their leader was Hernando de Soto. The entire southeastern United States was once ruled by Spain. Throughout the 1500s, the region was called La Florida, and in 1539, a Spanish army set off to explore its interior. Following the French Broad River from North Carolina, the army reached East Tennessee in 1540.
There are about 600 men, several hundred on horseback, and he would have had Indian bearers carrying his gear. He would have been equipped with swords, crossbows, early style of firearms.
In armor, on horseback, De Soto was the first white conqueror the natives had ever seen. To the Indians, he must have seemed more than a man.
Did they think he was a god or a devil?
Probably a devil, if anything, certainly with his behavior. Gods frequently bestow some sort of benefits at some point, and De Soto didn't.
Having helped plunder the Inca Empire a few years before, De Soto was once again in search of gold, silver, and glory. In East Tennessee, that quest took him to the towns of the Mississippian Indians who lived here then. One of the largest was Chiaha, near Dandridge, which is now under a TVA lake, as are most Mississippian towns. It's through accounts of De Soto's journey that we hear tales of the complex civilization that once thrived here. Though the natives had no gold and silver for De Soto to plunder, they could not escape the wrath of the conquistadors. Towns were pillaged, Indians were enslaved, murder was commonplace. But European disease caused the greatest destruction. With no immunity to smallpox and the flu, the Mississippian culture began to vanish.
Must have been catastrophic from what we know archaeologically, where we sometimes find mass graves with a number of individuals thrown in the same pit.
After De Soto, fabulous towns that had been occupied for centuries stood abandoned in just 20 years.
It's quite likely that at least half, two-thirds, or maybe even more of the native populations were wiped out by disease in the 100 years after De Soto.
Ironically, what was a catastrophe for the Mississippians was a boon to other Indian tribes. The Cherokees rose to prominence as the Mississippians faded into history. From Tennessee, De Soto went on to explore Georgia, Alabama, Arkansas, and the Mississippi River. The impact De Soto and the Spanish had on Native American culture seems harsh, but in their own way, Europeans that followed were no less destructive. Such is the nature of conquest. Our greatest frontier hero would have been considered ruthless in another time, John Sevier, when Heartland Tonight returns. John Sevier represents the best of what it means to be a frontier hero. Unless you happen to be a Native American, then he was a bad man.
He was a tall man, and blue eyes, fair complexion, erect, and very handsome man. Is reported to be the most handsome man in all of Tennessee.
People seemed to rally around him. He was a strong military figure, a commanding figure. And in many ways, he was similar to the figure that Washington was to the nation as a whole.
He arrived in 1771. He won the hearts and captured the imagination of the pioneer. He was a champion of the common man, a lover of freedom, a lover of land. In John Sevier, we can see what it is to be an East Tennessean, and we find our greatest hero. John Sevier was Tennessee's first governor. He was elected for 6 terms. No one has served longer. But he performed his greatest service in the field of battle. 35 victories with no defeats. He led the Watauguans to victory at Kings Mountain and helped turn the tide in the American Revolution.
One of the most important factors on the early Tennessee frontier was security and safety, and those who were able to protect the settlers from the Indians, and those who were able to defeat the Indians were the heroes, and John Sevier was the greatest soldier on the Tennessee frontier.
But he earned more than respect for his victories on the battlefield. He earned land, 300,000 acres for military service. He once owned this entire block in downtown Knoxville, and in the basement of this house on Walnut Street are the bricks from the foundation of the dream home Sevier was never able to finish. But he was able to finish this one. It's an unassuming structure. It almost seems unworthy of it. But living here in Marble Springs was a most uncommon man. With 18 children of his own, he once gave away 50,000 bushels of corn during a depression. He kept a diary where he recorded and tried to interpret his dreams. John Sevier taught himself French, kept in tune with world affairs, and wrote his own dictionary of the Cherokee language.
Sevier was a man far beyond the frontiersman. He was involved in so many things, as a realtor, a surveyor, a city builder, a state builder, a soldier. He had captured some Indians, and the Indians liked Bonnie Kate's food so well that they stayed for a whole week. Can you imagine it? So he had to finally run them all, I think.
At the time of his death, his personal effects were valued at less than $300. The last and happiest years of his life were spent here, a place more like the man than we realize.
Every state has its frontier heroes. Every state has its great men and women from the early period, and John Sevier is one of ours. He was a strong man. He is our frontier hero.
Sevier, our hero. But there were bad guys then, too. The first Tennessean, Russell Bean, was a mean one. He bit the ear off his unsponsored child so it wouldn't get mixed up with his own brood. He was branded in the palm of his hand. He was so mean, he bit it out and spit it on the floor. Penalties then were swift and severe. Horse thieves were whipped, their ears nailed to the pillory or cut off. There were bad guys here, real bad, like the Harps. Big Harp and Little Harp terrorized Walden's Ridge from Kingston to Kentucky, killing dozens for sport, babies for crying. They met their Waterloo on Harp's Head Hill in Kentucky, with Big Harp's head stuck, hung on a pick. More gore when Heartland Tonight returns. Around 1830, archaic punishments were finally recognized as cruel. Use of the whipping post, branding, and the pillory were abolished in Knoxville in 1831. But the city wasn't as sophisticated as it might like to be. Knoxville had its underside, too. A section of town near Second Creek. Residents of the city proper called it Scuffletown, for obvious reasons. If you were a wanderer, soldier, or riverman, you had a place in Scuffletown. It is almost certain that residents of Scuffletown wouldn't all appear on city rosters in 1830. Nor would we want them to be. Just 1,500 people lived in Knoxville in 1830. Our quest for civility was dealt a crushing blow a half a century later by a nice lawyer and a respected banker. Despite its polish and model appearance, Knoxville was not so far removed from its frontier beginnings. Thank you, Joseph. One faithful example of that happened just outside on Gay Street. That the people involved were prominent and respected city leaders made the event even more tragic. Joseph Mabry had given Knoxville the land for Market Square. He had railroad interests. Thomas O'Connor was a bright star, a banker and politician. On reporting his marriage, the Knoxville Daily Press and Herald said he was synonymous in Knoxville for all that is generous, brave, and kind.
O'Connor! You power-struggling idiot! Next time I see you, I'll kill you!
But Mabry suspected O'Connor of arranging his son's murder in a property dispute. Nothing would settle the feud but blood. One October morning, 1882, O'Connor, who had been challenged by Mabry, waited for him in the doorway of his bank on Gay Street. He aimed to get the first shot in. The gunfire drew Joseph Mabry Jr. to avenge his father. O'Connor had another gun in reserve. In the end, 3 men died and 7 onlookers were wounded. Writer Mark Twain cited the triple killing in his book, Life on the Mississippi, as an example of Southerners' violence.
Harvey Logan was the meanest man that ever came here, but they didn't know who he was. He blew in here in 1901. They were after him out west so bad. He was a member of the Butch Cassidy Sundance Kid gang, the Hole in the Wall gang, the Wild Bunch.
He had the stolen banknotes wrapped in newspaper and had them stored in 2 suitcases, and he checked those here at the baggage room, headed off down toward the Bowery area, which was the red light district. It's just like a sewer of humanity down here. All the bad eggs gravitated to this part of town. Harvey found exactly what he was looking for here. He found pool halls, dives, brothels, any kind of, anything you wanted, you could get it on the Bowery area. This was just...
Who patrolled this area?
Officers Robert Saylor and William Dinwiddie. This was their regular beat.
At Ike's Saloon, a dive on 314 South Central, Harvey Logan is shooting pool with Luther Brady, a local tough, and gets into a fight. Logan has him half stuffed in a sugar barrel, strangling him, when the officers hear the commotion and enter from the street. Officer William Dinwiddie tries to beat Logan off Brady and breaks his nightstick. Logan never relinquishes his grip and fires 3 shots into Officer Robert Saylor, who goes down. Dinwiddie picks up Saylor's nightstick and continues to beat Logan when Logan fired again. This time Officer Dinwiddie was shot. Logan escaped out the back door.
Harvey came to the back of the saloon, leapt about 15 feet off the back balcony, came down this bank, crossed the creek, and then he was gone.
He was captured near Jefferson City and returned to the old jail. When the Pinkerton agents identified him, the hotels filled. Everyone was in a tizzy. For 18 months, pretty girls brought him food from the best hotels and fell in love with him. Thousands lined up, and guards charged a dime to see the famous outlaw. He wore new suits and fancy shoes to court. The officials all wanted their pound of flesh. Meanwhile, Harvey Logan, Kid Curry, planned his escape. When his last appeals failed, he was sentenced to the Ohio Penitentiary. That's when he took the trim off a windowsill, lashed it together to make a long pole to reach the shoebox at the end of the corner, which had guns in it. He'd gotten real familiar with his jailer, Tom Bell, and he had a broom.
Back in those days, I used to use a wire around the broom. And he took that wire loose from that broom, and he put it around a guard's neck and threatened to choke him to death.
He got the drop on the jailer, led him out into this area out here, which was like a courtyard section of the jail. The sheriff's residence was back here. The sheriff came out to see the commotion, and much to his horror saw Harvey with a gun in the jailer's back, ready to escape. Harvey saw the sheriff's horse. As the sheriff ran back in the house to retrieve his gun that he left upstairs, Harvey jumped on the horse, rode off down this street and across the bridge.
Logan's in no hurry.
As a matter of fact, I've heard this story that there was a little girl playing out in her front yard or on her front porch or something. As he was going out of town, he saw the little girl waved at her and she waved back at him. She was playing in the yard or something. Isn't that something?
Officers Dinwiddie and Saylor eventually died from their wounds. In a shootout in Colorado, rather than be taken alive, Logan shot himself. This story is our little piece of the Old West. We leave the seedy side of town for the seedy side of the country when we come back. This harsh land might have something to do with the coarse attitude toward life, where an enemy might stay one for generations. Hatred, maybe evil, exists. In this story with a twist, hope is in reconciliation. Then it's on to Crossville. Bohannon peers across the landscape, listening for the beast. He covets his woodlands, not for the deer and bear found thick. He jealously guards it from one lay birch field. An intense blood feud exists between the two. They have hated each other since they were boys. Jess Bohannon has gathered his men to hunt. It's not the four-legged quarry he's after. Game which usually holed up or running like driven hellhounds. There is movement everywhere among the mad creatures of the forest. Bohannon has positioned his men in ambush and is hunting for lay birch field alone, hoping he might settle this man to man once and for all. But fate would not have it be.
So you're not killed, just caught. That's justice for you. Ha!
At least I'm caught on my own land, and I'm not trespassing. My men will find me.
That's nothing. I got men out here too close. They're the ones be doing the releasing. There ain't nothing to keep them from rolling this tree trunk on your head. I'll send my respects to your family. Ha!
When my men find you, there won't be nothing but a good pile.
Big deal. We'll fight this out to the finish. Tonight, one of us dies.
Both soon give up struggling and resign to wait, knowing it is pure chance whose men will arrive first. Their hardened hearts began to soften.
Are you dead?
No, I ain't dead yet.
Are you hurt?
Yeah, I'm hurt, you stupid. Laying here with all this timber on top of me. Blood all over my eyes. Besides that, I think my legs are busted, you idiot.
Help! Help!
Their weak cries for help unite them, and transformation occurs. Sometime during the night, they became friends.
Then sings my soul, my Savior God.
That sounds good, Birchfield.
Well, thank you. I really do like to sing to my Maker.
You know, it's funny that we have to have a tree to fall on us to make us realize what life's all about.
In the dark, gloomy forest, engulfed in danger, the former enemies drew strength in their new friendship, each secretly praying for the rescue of the other.
Are you there, Birchfield?
Yeah, I'm here.
I hear something.
Oh, that ain't nothing but the wind.
I see them coming. I can see something coming through the woods. Help! Help! They hear us.
How many are there?
Oh, they bound to be 9 or 10. They coming as fast as they can. Good boys.
Are they your men? Are they your men?
No.
Who are they?
Wolves.
The bustling main street of Crossville today tells nothing of its amazing World War II past. In the 1940s, its isolated location made Crossville the ideal place for high-ranking Italian and German prisoners of war. Ironically, the prison camp turned Crossville into a boomtown.
It was a good job, you know. For us then, we didn't know what a good job was till they got here. They paid good money, you know.
We Saw all the best movies out here at the rec hall.
For some U.S. soldiers, the Crossville tour of duty never ended. They married local girls. During the prison camp's 4-year existence, U.S. soldiers and prisoners alike lived in a home enclosed by barbed wire and guard towers.
It was a tar paper barracks, and it had a wood plank floor, cracks in it at least a ½ an inch. You had a coal-burning stove, which you had to lug the coal in.
According to a prisoner named Hans Smolinski, German families heard distressing news about U.S. prison camp life.
The colonel allowed an American photographer to enter the camp to take pictures of us. We all got excellent and plenty of food, so we looked well and healthy. But the German censors told the next of kin that they must not trust these pictures because they were all retouched to camouflage the emaciated faces of their loved ones.
These sturdy tables are examples of how the Germans spent their time. They made things, furniture and art. Elaborate Bavarian scenes on the walls of the recreation hall. A wood carving that hangs in a building supply store. They were cultivated and educated, accomplished musicians, medical doctors and professors, not professional soldiers. They held college classes among themselves, creating a university on the Cumberland Plateau. But the war was never far away.
Let me tell you about the little German fellow that cleaned our office. One day he came in one morning and he glanced at the map and he just burst into tears. He was young. One of the officers that spoke German spoke with him and said, what is so wrong? And he told him that that morning I had inked in the town where all of his family lived. And he knew we had taken his town, and he wondered if his brothers and sisters and his relatives had been killed.
It was midsummer 1945 when all the prison companies were ordered to march under heavy guard to the American movie hall. The lights went out, and on the huge screen we had to witness the most horrible pictures of German concentration camps. We could not believe those ugly crimes could be committed by my own countrymen.
Millions suffered, of that there is no doubt. Yet as physical reminders fade, the hope is lessons of war will not. The lessons of our past teach us reconciliation and compromise, community, trust, love, not war and violence. That is our hope for the future. See you next week on Heartland Tonight.